You're listening to the Add Water and Stir podcast, where we have candid conversations about fostering, adopting, and parenting children of color. I'm Mimi from the blog, MimiRobinsonOnline.com, and
I am adopted Black mom of the blog of the same name.
if you are new to our show, please check out all of our episodes on our site, www.addwaterandstirpodcast.com, or you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app. You've tuned into our special series on the show, This Is Us. Tonight, we're talking about episode 14, I Call Marriage. So here's a quick recap. Toby throws a wrench in Kate's plan. Anxiety takes hold of Randall's family. Jack and Rebecca receive devastating news. Kevin examines his romantic past. That says absolutely nothing. Like, it doesn't tell you anything that is happening in this show this week. So good thing we are here to do the recap. You ready to go, ABM?
I'm ready.
Okay, so like we normally do, we try to go from the least interesting plot point to the most. And so once again, Kevin makes it as our first. So when we first see Kevin, Kevin's at Sal's diner, and it starts off the show in a bad way because he asks these two elderly people to move out their booth because it's a special booth where him and Sophia had their first kiss and blah, blah, blah. But the cool thing, we got to see Mary from 227. Were you surprised to see her?
I was.
I was like, look. If you know 227, then you know who we're talking about, Mary.
Right.
So anyway, so finally, after she gets his autograph, they moved to another booth, but it kind of irritated me. I was like, why are you messing with these old people? And they're just trying to, live their life. Sophia comes in upset. She only came to tell him to screw himself because he just showed up at her house after 12 years. But then the lava fry shows up, and clearly she likes food, so she's eating. And Kevin tells her that he's never stopped thinking about her. So she talks about how her life is good. Everything is going good for her finally. And he's just looking at her like, oh, we can just pick up where we left off. And he's just so annoying. That just bothers me. Like, she's telling him that her life is great. And he was like, it's so good. We could just pick off just where we left off. And that pisses her off. She's like, have you forgotten that you cheated on me and everything? I don't want to pick off where we left off.
Right.
She runs off, and like a stalker that he is, he follows her. And they get stuck on the train, and then tells her that he's been following her on Facebook by creating a fake profile. Did that throw you off any?
Yeah, that was really weird. He's like an Asian guy on Facebook or something like that. And then I was like, well, why are you accepting friend requests from random folks? Like, it was just weird. Stalker.
Yeah. And then he's like, I truly changed. But I'm like, but you haven't. You're trying to control her from far away. But anyway, she's like, I'm good. I moved back in my parents. I dated and married people. I wasn't in a good place, but now I'm finally good. I got a boyfriend and everything, and I'm happy. And he's like, yeah, but
what about me?
Yeah, basically, I remember what you wore in the 4th grade, and I'm still in love, and I'm going to be in the booth, and I'm sitting waiting on you. And here's another grand gesture. And if you love me, you'll come to the booth tomorrow. And I'm like, ugh. These men and these grand gestures, it sounds romantic, but when I'm watching it, I'm like, this really comes off kind of not
well
cool.
The first one is grand. The second one is just, you got issues. Like, you just have issues. And oh, by the way, like, the elderly Black people in the diner, not the only people he asked to move. So the world does really revolve around him, because when they are on the subway, he asks the person sitting next to her to move. And, she ends up stomping off like, dude, I'm good. Like, just let it just be. It happened. It was a thing. It's not a thing anymore. Can we just move on? No.
And then, honestly, when I talk about the character, I don't know what his name is, but he just isn't pulling off true sincerity to me. He is pulling off, how do I say this? White boy douche. That's what he's pulling off very well, but not like I'm a sincere person that has feelings. Again, they are all centered on how he's feeling, what he needs, when he needs it, how he wants it. I want to sit by you. I want to be in this booth. I want you to show up for me. I want to show up at your house, and I want you to talk to me because I feel like talking right now. It's just super annoying to me.
Yeah, he's on the white boy douchery ladder. He is one step above Ryan Lochte. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of where he ranks right now. I just
Mm-hmm.
need him to go like, lie about getting robbed in Brazil, and like
Mm-hmm.
they'll be twinsies. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's just a narcissist, and he just wants what he wants when he wants it. And I don't know what his psych eval is, but it's like he grew up. He felt like he didn't get a lot of attention. He didn't feel like he got the attention that he deserved. He becomes famous, and then like it's just like a drug to him. And so now he has this expectation that everyone always cater to him. And maybe it's because he feels like Rebecca didn't cater to him before. And it's always women. It's
Mm-hmm.
always women. There's my psych breakdown. He got mama issues.
Yeah. So moving on to Kate and Toby. So Kate's at her immersion camp and is looking more intense, than she
Right.
originally thought that they were doing. She's breaking sweats and things, and she's real, into it. It's interesting because Duke passes by and says, hello, and the friend says, "You're such a prick." And I was like, well, what does this friend know
Mm.
about him? Because he didn't really say anything bad. And then he tells Kate that she's looking fine, and so her friend looks at her like, what's the deal? I kind of think her friend was giving her a warning look like,
Uh,
leave that dude
leave
alone.
him alone. Leave him alone.
So at that very instance, Toby sends her a note and he sent her a package. And it's actually Toby who has brought some of her favorite things and his loud and annoying self. I mean, he's loud and annoying almost immediately. Like if you hadn't been around him for a long time, like you're in this camp and you're focused and everything, and then he shows up, you start looking at him like, why do I like him?
Why do you like you?
So
It
he
seems endearing while I'm with it, but now not so much.
so he's like, I'm in town, and she's like, no, she doesn't want to miss her classes. And hmm. I was like, wow, really? I mean, I know the classes are serious, but if your boo who you haven't seen for a long time that you're engaged to shows up and wants to hang out with you, and you're like, nah, I'd rather go to exercise class, that might tell you a little something.
Right. Like the writing's on the wall. So, I mean, and Toby comes because he misses her. I
Yeah.
mean, Toby is he's a bit of a dork, and he is loud and obnoxious and everything, but that's her boo. And she chose him. And, he's fun loving and everything, but
He is.
he has flown across the country to be with her, and he almost died. They get
Yeah.
engaged, and she promptly like departs off to fat camp. I know you
Yeah.
keep calling it immersion camp, but I'm keeping it 100. She at fat camp. So, and she's really happy to see him at first, but he does what Toby does, which is like, I don't have come. And the doctor says, I can kind of get me a little something, something, and you're not going to break me off. Okay,
He's ready for
well,
some sexy time. So,
right. And so he's like, all right, well, I'll do it your way then.
yep. So he walks around the camp and he runs into Duke. And so Duke thinks that he's a new patient at the camp. And so Duke is trying to give him the lowdown. Like, hey, this camp is filled with women who, women with low self-esteem who are looking for somebody to feel, get frisky with. And Toby's not with that. He does not. He's like, we are not the same type of people. And he says
Mm-mm.
he's meeting his fiance. It tells him that it's Kate. And Duke is such a creep that he gives Toby the impression that something's going on. He's like, oh, well, this is kind of awkward. And of course, Toby's like, what? Luckily, Toby is kind of a nice dude. He doesn't jump to conclusions, actually. It doesn't seem like it. So,
No, he trusts Kate. So,
yeah. And I guess he can see immediately what kind of dude Duke is. So he's like, I need to, caution with him.
mm-hmm.
But it does kind of make Toby feel like maybe I need to stick around a little bit more. So he got a day pass and he shows up to Kate's stretch class. And he's like being normal Toby. And, he wooed her by making faces and doing little side jokes and everything. But she is not into it. She is trying to get her weight loss on. And so Kate's irritated. So Toby's like, yeah, I could get used to this. I might as well, hang out, stay. And Kate's like, no, this is my stuff. You've been acting like, I want you to leave, basically. And Toby starts telling, I'm here because I miss you. I'm healing. I'm still scared though. And by the way, I brought you some gifts and you've got to take the bag. And by the way, here's my grandma's ring. And since you don't want to be around me, I'm leaving. And
With my light up shoes.
yes. And I won't cramp your style anymore. Way to like passively aggressively
Uh,
feel bad.
I know. It was
But
sad.
it was sad because Kate managed that whole situation incorrectly.
Right.
But I think she needs some assessment to do. You know, she needs to figure out, does she like Toby like that? It's not clear to me anymore that she really does.
Well, yeah, and I mean, keep in mind that they had broken up when she came
Mm-hmm.
to New York because she came to the conclusion that he wasn't going to ever be what she needed him to be. Now, she missed him, she missed his friendship, i.e., friend zone. And, you know, again, this show is packed with grand gestures. So he makes, you know, the cross country trip in the middle seat. You know, when she has this time away from him, she just is like, yeah, I mean, they get engaged during the midst of a crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this, I mean, she really hasn't had time to assess, does she really like him? And it just feels like she, you know, when she has some other things to do, she doesn't really need him like that. So Kate's at the gym and Duke, you know, shows up. And of course, since he's a predator, he sees his prey looking weak and asks if she's having relationship trouble. And she's like, I'm not going to do what I usually do. I normally eat. I'm not going to self-sabotage myself. I'm good. I got my willpower going on. And of course, Duke being the predator that he is, just bombs her like, yeah, whatever, you're never gonna change. And I'm in cabin 13. Again.
Get at me.
He's the worst.
Get at me. He is the worst. And I will say, you were right. On the last episode of our recaps, I was like, maybe he's not a predator. No, he's a predator. He's a predator. He is. You were right. You were right. Yeah. And by the show's end, we do see Kate tipping out in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but she could have been going to her own cabin. But I think she is going to cabin 13.
I think she's about to slide into his DMs.
Don't do it, Kate. Don't do it. So for Jack and Rebecca, it opens up on their wedding reception that takes place like in a, I don't know, restaurant or something, but it is cool. But they're surrounded by all their friends. They got married at City Hall, and best friend Miguel, who we think is also a creepster, is giving their toast. And then it shows them years later. So, you know, when they first got married, everything was hot and steamy and, you know, dreamy. And then years later, it's the mundane. They go out to dinner with their friends. They haven't had a chance to do this in a while. And then they have a little tiff. You know, Jack kind of indicates that the band is taking up a little bit more of Rebecca's time than he's comfortable with. And they kind of have a little spat. And Miguel and Sally interrupt them and was like, yeah, by the way,
we're getting divorced.
And so Jack's not happy because he feels like that's not what people do. If you get married for life. And Rebecca's a little bit more open, like, hey, sometimes people drift apart.
Yeah.
And Jack is like, wait a minute.
No, they don't.
Never.
That is not a part of the plan.
So Jack sees Miguel flirting with somebody in the office, and Jack, you know, asks him, what's the deal? How did y'all just grow apart? And so Miguel tells him, you know, and it was a really cool story about the fact that Miguel brings his wife coffee every morning. And then one day he just didn't, and she didn't notice. And it's just kind of like they just stopped noticing each other and didn't want to make each other happy. So Rebecca's at the club singing. The piano player, I think the piano player has a crush on her.
Yeah.
And he tells her that they have a gig, a tour, and she's happy but reserved because she needs to talk to Jack. She knows that Jack is not going to be cool with her going off on this little tour. And the piano player says if Jack really loves her, he will understand that this is her big break. And Rebecca goes off.
Ham. She straight goes ham on him. Like, my man is like all that and a bag of chips. Talking about something, if he loves me.
You would never say that again. She says, my husband is my freaking superhero. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, get it, Rebecca. That's the first time, maybe the second time I've liked her in this episode. I was like, thank you for turning that and listening to everything that, you know, Jack does. It was really sweet.
It was. I actually really liked their storyline this week because, well, one, we find out that Miguel is not quite as douchey as we've been led to believe. I mean, I think he's a natural flirt.
Mm-hmm.
But, I do think that he also has had a long crush on Rebecca forever and ever, amen, as well. But we also find that Rebecca is ride or die. She is like, no, that is my man. And
Yes.
and I notice the things that he does for me and our family.
Right.
Like I notice. And so even though, they might be just brushing their teeth and they're kind of just living life with the kids and kind of going through the motions sometimes, it's deeper than that for her. We find that she really is like, this is my soulmate.
I love it. I thought that was great. And all women should be able to talk about their husbands like that. That was
Right.
awesome.
Right.
So we see Jack back at the house. He's in his good suit and he's packing an overnight bag, which was a nice leather bag too, actually.
Mhm.
So Rebecca comes home and he's like, look, I done got the kids away and we're going on a trip. And she's like, okay, because she's cool like that.
Right.
So I'd be like, wait a minute, can I take a shower?
No, she trusts him. She was like, oh, you done got rid of the kids? Where we going? Let's
Excited.
go. Let's go.
Bright eyed. She was ready, even though she had just came home from singing at a gig. So Jack has Rebecca blindfolded and he takes her to this special place, which happens to be their old apartment. Yay! That is so
Yay.
awesome. Not to be anyway, but he has set up, but this is sweet. He has set up lights and candles and a picnic. And he says that he wants them to take the time to remember the newlyweds that lived there. Although I was like, I thought they didn't live there. I thought they bought the house. But anyway, technical pieces. But he wants them to remember how they were when they first got married.
Mm-hmm.
So after they take a bath with champagne in that nasty bathroom, because so while I was watching, I am an ABM, and I was like, so when I go to a new apartment, I have to clean the whole apartment before I use anything. I don't use the bathroom or anything. It's like scrub brushes, everything. We have to clean everything. So I definitely would not be cool with you just taking us over there for a night, because I'd be like, so have they cleaned the apartment? Like, did you wipe it down? I would not be comfortable with this where we could have been in a hotel. So after they take the bath and they're drinking champagne or whatever, they're sitting on the floor, which is also gross. And he brings out the vows and they reread him. And it's really cute. They, do a flashback of what they were thinking about, and their vows are awesome. So
Yeah.
So you said you would like it if a guy took you to your old apartment like this.
So I appreciate the sentiment. Yes, I would clean, but I also recognize, so, me, I will go ahead and give Jack the benefit of the doubt. He works in housing and everything. He didn't got access to this place. Now, I know that he's not going to clean it like I'm going to clean it, but, this kind of grand gesture right here, this has Elihu's name all over it. This is something he would do. Totally.
I mean, maybe something.
You're like, where's the comment?
We could have went to the hotel and we could have did all these things at the hotel that I feel a little bit more comfortable that was cleaned appropriately. We could have drank the champagne in the tub. I still would have wiped the tub down, but we could have drank the champagne in the tub and we could have, read our vows and everything there. But in any case,
it was very romantic, whether you needed to pre-clean or not. I'm just kind of like, Kevin, dude, how come you ain't learned from your pops? Like, if you're going to do the grand gesture, like, you needed to learn. You need to pay more attention to what your daddy was doing for your mom.
That's true. I mean, it had a point to it. It was nice. It was a nice, and it was for her, So,
yeah.
And he did think about a lot of things. He had the bed palette made in the corner.
Clearly,
yes.
Mimi and I made backstories for the cleanliness of the apartment in order for us to suspend our belief or disbelief at this being a grand romantic gesture. I gave him a little bit more benefit of the doubt than my esteemed colleague here.
Ugh. Okay, so on to Randall's house. So Randall shows up to a dark and empty house and finds William by himself on the piano seat. And he goes over and touches him, and William is dead. And he wakes up, and it's a bad dream. His daughter wakes up and she's like, I peed in the bed, and they're so nice. They're like, oh, it's okay. And I was like, oh, that's so nice. I'm kind of irritated when that happens. Like, oh.
I want to be like that.
I know, because I'm like, let me get up and I got to take all these sheets off. I mean, you try to be nice to your kid, but you still, your irritation and sleepiness kind of shows through. They seem all nice and loving all the time to be like them. So they look for Tess and find Tess and William playing chess in the middle of the night. Tess has entered a chess tournament. Nobody has paid attention. And she says she has to snag William when she can because William's not always going to be around. And Rando is in deep denial about this to the point of really being mean. And that doesn't seem to be his normal way of being. The next time we see them, Rando and Beth are talking to someone about palliative care. Mm-hmm. And he's on the edge. He can't deal with it. He bails on the meeting. He's like, I'm going to work. I cannot deal with this. You keep using these words. I can't deal. So Randall goes to work. Apparently Sanjay wrote the derivative from the last episode we saw them. Mm-hmm. And they need to tie it up with the client. And Randall wants to take the client out. And the boss is like, nah, Sanjay is going to do it. Randall pushes back and they're like, nah. The boss like, I want Sanjay involved in everything. Mm-hmm. They want to take the boss out. Randall's supposed to go to the chess tournament. Randall has to make a choice. He chooses to go to the dinner with the clients. That's what he thinks.
Yeah.
So he gets home. And
record scratch.
He gets home and talks to Beth about it. And Beth is like, look, I'm good with understanding you don't want me to say died or passing or end of life. I understand that you all in your denial, but the reality is you gonna go to this chess match tonight. She says, I'm calling marriage tonight. And it seems like this is not something that she does a lot, which is why he really takes heed, when you call marriage, it trumps everything.
Right.
So it's great. Randall's at the chess tournament. He texts Sanjay, how's it going? Sanjay never texts him back. Like, I got this, dude. So Randall gets back to work. He's like, you couldn't text me back, dude? Sanjay's like, I got it. He's signing. Randall's like, cool, I'm going to go and say hello. And Sanjay blocks him.
Straight.
Man, I was
Straight
like,
blocked him.
Randall almost felt it come up out of him at that point. You can see on his face, like he might not have grown up around Black people, but his ancestral
not give you back
came up. He had to keep it in. He had to comport himself. So luckily his boss showed up at that very minute and was like, hey, let's talk. I want to split your accounts between you and Sanjay. And Randall's like, what? And the boss is like, he needs his support and dismisses any objections that he has to that.
Rando is having a really, really hard time. His life was so predictable before. I'd be really interested to hear adoptees talk about kind of what this feels like when you're in reunion. Were things, even if things were sad or tough or whatever before emotionally, if there was a predictability about your existence, did that bring you comfort? And even though there's comfort in being in reunion, the show and this storyline seems to say, well, there's still a lot of upheaval, especially when then you're faced with being in reunion and you know that it's going to be coming to an end. Mm-hmm. Randall is not here for this. And Beth is, her amazing, fabulous, perfect self. And she's like, look, we got to prepare our kids for this. There's some things that we need to do. We do need to get this palliative hospice care set up. And Randall is essentially like, la, 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 I can't hear you. Mm-hmm. He's really kind of losing it.
And Beth is really like amazing because she does not snap. She just, when he says he doesn't want to hear her say those words, she's like, okay. But it's like she really just understands what he needs right now.
Right now. Well, what is Beth going to be like next season? Because, I want to be Beth when I grow up, but I'm also like, yeah, I'm not wired like that. Where did y'all find her?
Mm-hmm.
Where is
She
y'all?
is
Where,
pretty.
you
She's
know,
submissive. That's what I when that happened, when that little
yeah.
discussion, I was like, that is what we talk about, submissive. And I don't mean that that means that she is a victim or anything like that, but in the
No.
sense of she trusts her husband. She knows that he's going through something. So I can put whatever I'm feeling to the side. And but then she also has a way to get what she needs. She calls marriage when she feels like she needs to. She stands up for what she wants. She tells him what she needs in a way that he can hear it. She doesn't
Well,
have to go off the deep end.
and and I don't want people to think, oh, submissive. Like, I mean, I think that they have a very balanced
Yes.
marriage, and they are two powerful people. And like, I don't see Beth as a beta. Please believe, like,
No.
she's amazing, but please know that I think that they're two alphas who have figured it out,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because she does have her own power when
Right.
she's laying around in fabulous robes eating yogurt. Like, I still want to know what Beth does, but she is still a very powerful figure,
Mm-hmm.
a very powerful character. But she knows her husband, she trusts him, and she gets him. And it's interesting though, because I feel like, of all of the kids, the one who ends up with a relationship that mimics his parents is Randall.
You think so?
I mean, in the sense of, here is a loving marriage, a loving relationship, a healthy relationship,
Oh, okay. Yes.
because the two bios kind of got some
Yeah,
jacked up issues.
they do.
But the adoptee's relationship with his wife and his kids is like, okay, we got this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he found his soulmate.
Right. This was a little bit of a light episode. It ends with Kevin waiting at the restaurant, and Sophia does show up. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. We
Nor
see
do we
Kate.
care.
True. We see Kate on her way to cabin. It might be her own cabin. It might be cabin 13 where Duke is waiting. We see Beth hanging out with the kids, and I wasn't sure, were they making the memory box or not?
Eventually, the kids say that they want to make this memory box because Tess ends up putting a chess piece in the
Okay.
box.
All right. So then Randall comes to bed late and experiences hand tremors, which might be he got some health things going on too. And that's the end. That's the end of the
Yeah.
episode. So what do you think?
The next episode, episode 15, is their season finale. So I think that they kind of went light on this episode. Yeah, I mean, I think that, if I had to make some predictions about the finale, I think that this is when we're going to kind of see Jack's life come to an end. We're going to see his death. I don't think that that means he's leaving the show,
Right.
but I do think that they're going to tackle that. And I think it's going to echo and foreshadow William's death. I think that maybe that also has to do a lot with what Randall is experiencing, the loss of his father, which I think, certainly impacted all of the kids, but now he's enduring it again.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's story is maybe coming to an implosion point. So Sophie shows up, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she wants to get back with Kevin like he wants to. Kate's on her way to the cabin. We don't know what's going on, but we do know that she does have some serious thinking about what's going on with her and Toby. And then, with Randall, we're pretty sure that William is going to pass away. And so we'll see what episode 15 brings us. But I like this episode. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
I love the show. Yeah, our rankings have not changed.
no, no.
So, I don't know what that means for Kevin and Kate. I think that they're integral to the larger story. So here's one other adoptee question that I have. Randall, like, they know that his father is dying, and like, don't nobody call their brother? I mean, I know that they're not close, but like, they're all in New York now.
Yeah, I don't feel like the bios check in on Randall like that, or he doesn't check in. There definitely is some distance between those relationships.
Yeah. So, I mean, I do hope that we get to hear more about what feels like a very strained sibling situation in season 2.
So this has been our recap of This Is Us, episode 14. Don't forget to check out our most recent episode of Add Water and Stir, where we talk about Black History Month and the week of random acts of kindness. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast app so you don't miss episode. You can check us out on Facebook and let us know what you think about our recap or digest. So ABM, where can they find you?
You can find me at my blog at adoptiveblackmom.com, on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, all at Adoptive Black Mom. And what about you?
You can find me on MimiRobinsonOnline.com, or you can find me on Twitter at MimiComplex. And with that, we are out.
Bye.
Bye.